We usually think of real estate as, the absolute heaviest, most immovable asset on Earth.
Oh, yeah, literally made of concrete and steel. You can't get much heavier than that.
Right, exactly. But today we're looking at a single, incredibly dense excerpt from a document that essentially proves how a multi-million-dollar skyscraper can be teleported across the globe.
Teleported. I like that.
I mean, teleported in less than a second, which I know sounds totally insane.
It sounds like pure science fiction when you phrase it that way, but
Right.
we are really looking at a fundamental rewiring of global financial plumbing here.
Yeah, and for you listening, welcome to today's deep dive. We've got our hands on a very focused technical document.
Very focused and very brief.
It really is. It's titled Atomic Real Estate Settlement via the XRP Ledger. And our mission for you today is to decipher exactly how this text claims to take the famously slow, agonizingly cumbersome world of massive real estate transactions.
Which is a nightmare of a process, by the way.
Oh, totally. And transform it into this lightning-fast, cryptographically guaranteed process.
And it's worth noting just how concise the source material actually is. It doesn't waste time on history or long-winded theories.
No, it just gets right to it.
Right. It essentially just drops a blueprint for completely removing the latency from high-stakes property acquisitions.
It's practically a financial haiku. I mean, the sheer density of the engineering packed into those few sentences is staggering. I had to read it 3 times.
Yeah, you and me both.
Okay, let's unpack this. The document opens by diagnosing the disease before it prescribes the cure. Right.
Exactly.
It explicitly states its aim is to, quote, bypass legacy banking friction, unquote, when dealing with high-stakes institutional property acquisitions.
Which is a very specific type of transaction.
Right. And we've all experienced banking friction on some level, like waiting for a check to clear or dealing with a wire transfer hold.
Just waiting for a standard transfer to show up in your account.
Yeah, but when the text says high-stakes institutional property, we aren't talking about, buying a suburban duplex, are we?
Not at all. No, we are talking about transactions involving hundreds of millions, sometimes, even billions of dollars.
Wow.
Commercial skyscrapers, massive industrial complexes, international development tracts. In that realm, legacy banking friction isn't just an annoyance.
It's not just a waiting game.
Right. It is a massive, quantifiable loss of capital efficiency. Because legacy banking is built on sequential, asynchronous messaging networks.
Right.
You have systems like SWIFT, Fedwire, and various international clearinghouses that were, frankly, fundamentally designed decades ago.
Before the internet was even really a thing for most people.
Exactly. And they require one party to finish their rigid process before the next party can even begin.
I always try to visualize this because, a term like asynchronous messaging can sound a bit dry or abstract.
It's a bit of a mouthful, yeah.
It is. So it's not just a slow download bar on your computer. I think of it like a rail network where the Tokyo train and the New York train run on completely different gauge tracks.
Oh, that's a really good way to look at it.
Right. So your cargo, and in this case the cargo is hundreds of millions of dollars, has to be manually unloaded, inspected, and then reloaded at 3 or 4 different border checkpoints.
By entirely different correspondent banks.
Exactly. Before it ever reaches its destination.
That is a highly accurate analogy. And every single time that cargo is unloaded and inspected, you are paying fees.
Naturally.
You are exposing the capital to counterparty risk, and you are bleeding time, which leads directly to the core pain point identified in our source text.
The escrow bottleneck.
Yes, what it calls the multi-day escrow bottleneck. Escrow is essentially this massive, stressful waiting room.
Where everyone just parks their assets.
Exactly. You park the money, you park the deed, while human beings, lawyers, and slow, disconnected computers verify that the funds are real and the title is actually clear.
But, okay, I want to offer some genuine pushback here, because the text makes this bottleneck sound like a purely technological failure that just needs to be eradicated. You're talking about dismantling a multi-day escrow process. But isn't that multi-day process there for a very good reason?
You're talking about the security aspect.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about billions of dollars in commercial real estate. I don't want a skyscraper changing hands at the speed of a text message if, a single typo on a keyboard means the wrong holding company gets the deed.
That's a fair point.
Escrow might be a bottleneck, but it's also a safety net, right? How does extreme speed not equal massive systemic risk when the stakes are this incredibly high?
It's a completely valid skepticism. I mean, the legacy system, you were absolutely right. The delay is the security feature
Because it gives people time to catch mistakes.
because the legs of the transaction are completely decoupled.
Oh, meaning the money moving is separate from the paper moving?
Exactly. The bank moving the money has absolutely no direct communication with the municipal registrar that's transferring the deed.
Right, they're in two totally different worlds.
So you need that 3 to 5 day buffer to ensure neither side is committing fraud or defaulting or just making a mistake.
You need a referee.
You need a trusted third party, the escrow agent, to manually hold both assets. But, and this is the crucial part, that buffer comes with an astronomical hidden cost.
Which is?
Currency fluctuation.
Oh, wow. Because the markets don't stop just because your money is stuck in escrow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine a massive Japanese firm buying a commercial property in Manhattan.
Okay, pretty standard international deal.
Right, and let's say the deal's for $300 million. If that capital is locked in a multi-day escrow bottleneck, and the yen drops even 1% against the dollar over the weekend,
Just 1%.
just 1%, that firm has suddenly lost $3 million just to friction.
$3 million just evaporates because they had to wait for the paperwork.
The capital is trapped. It can't be deployed elsewhere. It's not earning interest, and it's exposed to those macroeconomic shifts.
That is brutal.
What's fascinating here is how the source text frames this multi-day escrow bottleneck. It doesn't suggest, optimizing it or making the correspondent banking layers slightly more efficient.
Like just hiring more escrow agents or upgrading their servers?
No, the text explicitly states it is dismantling the bottleneck entirely.
It's a complete teardown. Which I guess logically forces us to look at the sledgehammer they're using to do this.
The atomic settlement.
Right, the text introduces this concept to execute the demolition, stating they are, quote, utilizing atomic settlement.
Yes.
Now, looking purely at the mechanics of the text, it defines this as using atomic settlement to lock deed transfers and capital flows simultaneously.
That word simultaneously is everything.
So break down that mechanism for us. How does an atomic settlement actually function out there in the wild?
Well, in computer science, an atomic transaction is an operation that is entirely indivisible.
Indivisible, like an atom used to be considered.
Exactly. It is a single, irreducible unit of execution. It's a cryptographic conditional statement, an if and only if scenario.
Okay, so if this happens, only then does that happen.
Right. The protocol algorithmically binds the buyer's capital and the seller's deed into a single smart contract.
So they are fused together.
Yes. It's not a two-step process where I send you the money and then sit around hoping you send the deed.
Right.
The text's use of the word simultaneously is the operational core here. Either the entire transaction occurs perfectly, all at once, or it completely fails and nothing happens at all.
So there's no halfway point.
There is zero middle ground. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you can see how this mathematical certainty neutralizes that systemic risk you were worried about earlier.
It actually makes me think of that classic opening scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, with the golden idol.
Yeah, with the golden idol on the pedestal, Indiana Jones is standing there with a bag of sand, trying to perfectly calculate the weight so he can swap the sand for the idol in the exact same millisecond.
Right, trying to make an atomic swap.
Exactly. Because if he's off by even a fraction of a second, the floor drops out and the temple collapses.
It's a great visual, but let's take that analogy and apply the actual mechanics of atomic settlement to it.
Okay.
In legacy banking, the escrow agent is Indiana Jones.
Oh, sweating, hoping they calculated the counterparty risk correctly.
Hoping the banking systems don't crash mid-wire, hoping they don't trigger the trap. But atomic settlement removes Indiana Jones from the equation entirely.
So who does the swap?
The ledger itself is the pedestal. The pedestal is programmed to guarantee that the idol literally cannot be removed unless the exact correct weight in sand is placed simultaneously.
So the pedestal executes the swap flawlessly, digitally, without any human sweating over the timing.
Precisely. You asked why we shouldn't fear a skyscraper changing hands at the speed of a text message.
Because of the typo risk, yeah.
Well, with atomic settlement, the speed is a byproduct of the cryptographic security, not a replacement for it.
Oh, I see.
The protocol itself ensures that the buyer doesn't get the deed unless the seller gets the capital, and vice versa. It removes the human counterparty risk entirely.
Because it's just math.
It is cryptographically guaranteed, which means that multi-day buffer we discussed is no longer a necessary safe precisely. The skyscraper is owned by a specific purpose-built LLC, and the ownership shares of that LLC are what get tokenized and represented on the ledger.
That makes so much sense.
So whoever holds the cryptographic token holds the controlling shares of the LLC and therefore legally owns the building.
So when the atomic settlement executes on the ledger, the token swaps hands.
And the LLC ownership updates instantaneously under corporate law.
And the physical deed sitting in the Manhattan Registrar's office doesn't actually need to be touched.
Doesn't move an inch because the LLC still holds it. The legal wrapper allows the physical asset to move at the speed of light.
That is a brilliant workaround. You essentially containerize the real estate so it can be shipped across the digital rail network.
That's a great way to put it.
Which brings us to the engine powering those rails.
Yeah.
Because the text doesn't just talk about atomic settlement in a vacuum, right?
No, it points to a very specific infrastructure.
Right. It explicitly says this is achieved by deploying the XRP Ledger's liquidity.
The XRP Ledger is the foundational layer here. It is a decentralized cryptographic blockchain designed specifically for the rapid, highly scalable transfer of value.
So it's built for this exact heavy lifting.
Exactly. When the text emphasizes deploying its liquidity, it's highlighting the ledger's capacity to move massive amounts of capital instantly.
Without needing those correspondent banks we talked about.
Or the pre-funded Nostro and Vostro accounts that currently choke the global banking system.
I'm really glad you brought up Nostro and Vostro accounts, because that's a massive piece of the hidden plumbing most people don't ever see.
It's a huge drag on the system.
Right. To facilitate international trades right now, banks literally have to park billions of dollars of their own money in dormant accounts in foreign countries.
Just sitting there.
Just so the funds are sitting there ready to clear when a deal happens. It's dead capital.
It is trillions of dollars of dead capital globally. But the XRP Ledger's liquidity model frees that capital.
Because it doesn't need it sitting around.
No. The ledger acts as the single unified source of truth for both the capital flow and the tokenized deed transfer.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We've established the painful friction of legacy banking. We've broken down the simultaneous locking mechanism of atomic settlement.
Fusing them together.
Right. And we've introduced the ledger. And now the source text delivers its ultimate staggering conclusion.
The big finale.
Yeah. It claims, quote, cross-border real estate finality is now a sub-second reality.
It is a massive paradigm-shifting statement.
It really is. And I want to focus intently on the mechanics of those two specific concepts, cross-border and sub-second.
They're usually mutually exclusive in traditional finance.
Exactly, because putting them together in the context of commercial real estate sounds paradoxical. Let's go back to our Tokyo buyer and Manhattan seller.
Okay, the $300 million deal.
Right. In the real world, the Tokyo buyer holds Japanese yen. The Manhattan seller demands US dollars. Even with a tokenized LLC, how does the XRP ledger actually neutralize the foreign exchange risk and swap the currency in a sub-second window?
This is where the specific architecture of the XRP ledger really shines. It utilizes a native, inherently neutral bridge asset XRP.
A bridge asset.
Right. Because the ledger has a decentralized exchange built directly into its protocol, it employs a mechanism called auto-bridging.
Auto-bridging, meaning it calculates the most efficient path for the currency exchange automatically.
Exactly. The buyer doesn't need to go to an international forex desk to buy dollars, and the seller doesn't need to accept yen.
Oh, that removes so much friction right there.
During that sub-second atomic swap, the protocol instantly converts the buyer's yen into the bridge asset.
Into XRP.
Yes, and then instantly converts that bridge asset into the seller's dollars.
And because it happens so fast, there's no time for the price to drop.
Because the window of exposure is literally milliseconds, the foreign exchange volatility risk is virtually eliminated.
It's go.
The yen goes in, the dollar comes out, and the tokenized deed swaps, all in the exact same fraction of a second.
It just blows my mind. The protocol treats a massive cross-border currency exchange and property acquisition exactly the same as an email sent between two laptops in the same coffee shop.
That's the power of the protocol.
That is staggering. But the text adds one final, crucial word to that claim. It doesn't just say sub-second speed.
No, it says finality.
Right. It explicitly says sub-second finality.
This raises an important question. What does the term finality actually mean in the high-stakes financial and legal world?
Because it's not just a buzzword.
No, it is a highly specific, very rigorous technical term that often gets confused with mere speed.
Right, because if I buy a pair of shoes online with my credit card, the speed of the transaction is instant. I click buy, the vendor gets a little green check mark.
The website says your order is confirmed.
Exactly, but the finality isn't there at all. I could call my bank and issue a chargeback 3 weeks later.
Oh, exactly. The vendor doesn't have true, irrevocable finality until weeks after the fact.
And the same applies to legacy bank wires, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
The funds might show up in a corporate account as pending or processing, but they aren't fully cleared and settled until the central clearinghouse finalizes the batch process days later.
So it looks like it's there, but it's not really there yet.
In legacy financial systems, payment is essentially just a promise that eventually settles. Speed and finality are entirely divorced from one another.
They are two different events.
But in the context of this document and the XRP Ledger, the payment is the settlement. Finality means the absolute, irreversible, cryptographically secure completion of the deal.
No takebacks, no chargebacks.
No pending status, no human escrow agent holding the funds just in case.
None of it.
Once that sub-second atomic settlement executes, the ownership of the tokenized LLC has unequivocally changed hands.
Done deal.
The capital is unequivocally sitting in the seller's target account in their native currency, across international borders, time zones, and legacy jurisdictions.
In the blink of an eye.
The deal is mathematically done. It is mathematically impossible to reverse it without the new owner initiating a completely new, mathematically signed transaction to send it back.
Wow.
That is what the text means when it declares this a proven reality.
Yeah.
The protocol doesn't just promise the transfer, it mathematically guarantees the finality.
So what does this all mean? If we step back and look at the conceptual journey we've just taken through this incredibly dense paragraph,
It's quite a journey.
we started in the mud. We started with the immense, costly friction of legacy banking, the physical heat and slow grind of multi-day escrow bottlenecks.
Staring at that metaphor. And for you listening, it is vital to grasp this, even if you aren't personally directing a high-stakes institutional property acquisition today.
Which most of us aren't.
Right. Even if you aren't tokenizing skyscrapers in Tokyo, understanding this protocol-level shift is crucial because it fundamentally redefines how ownership, capital, and massive amounts of value can and will move globally from this point forward.
It's the new foundation.
The core plumbing of the global economy. The ledgers that track who owns what is being completely replaced with something borderless.
It changes the fundamental vocabulary of finance. Which leaves me with a final, somewhat provocative thought for you to ponder, building directly on the implications of what we've unpacked today.
Let's hear it.
In traditional finance, we've always operated with a very strict binary divide between things that are liquid and things that are illiquid.
Sure.
Cash is liquid. It flows easily. It can be deployed instantly. Real estate, on the other hand, is the ultimate illiquid asset. Its value is trapped in concrete, legal paperwork, and, multi-day escrow.
It is the textbook definition of an illiquid store of value.
But if the heaviest, most traditionally immovable asset class in the world, institutional real estate, can now truly achieve sub-second cross-border finality.
Which the document proves it can.
Right. What does that mean for the future definition of liquidity itself?
That is a fascinating question.
I mean, if an 80-story Manhattan skyscraper can be traded instantly across oceans, converted through a bridge asset, with the mathematical ease of sending a text message, does the fundamental distinction between liquid cash and illiquid physical assets even exist anymore?
It really blurs the line.
We've essentially given that heavy, immovable mountain we talked about at the beginning a digital remote control, and now that mountain can be teleported anywhere instantly.
We're entering a completely frictionless financial reality.
We really are. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the bottlenecks, keep exploring the protocols, and we will catch you next time.